Hey, this is Kevin Syracuse. We're live outside here at Sports Hour.
Did you get that?
I understand it's football, but it's not football.
Hello everyone, welcome into Sports Hour. I'm your host, Josh Schmidt, filling in for Kevin tonight. Alongside me, we got Aaron Sember to talk about the NFL Draft. First things first though, we had a retirement announced today. Alex Smith has retired from the NFL after 16 years, and what a comeback story he had, this year. Drafted first overall in 2005 by the 49ers. Then he went off to Kansas City with Aaron's Chiefs, and then he finished off with the Washington football team, where, as I said, he had one heck of a comeback story after almost losing his leg and then winning NFL Comeback Player of the Year this year. So, job well done on a great career.
Yeah, for sure. 16 seasons. Of course, these days, quarterbacks can really play for as long as they want, but after his injury in 2018, he was really an inspiration, and he led the Chiefs, of course, to a couple AFC Championship games. We obviously didn't get to the Super Bowl before Mahomes, or we had it in the 60s. Right. Yeah, but he was a really good player, and he'll definitely be probably a first or second ballot Hall of Famer in years to come.
Yeah, for sure. But as I said, let's get into the NFL Draft. We're going to break down the top 10 from the CBS Sports NFL Draft team. So what we're going to do is we're going to read off their projected top 10, and we're going to see if it concurs with our top 10. So, first of all, the NFL Draft is April 29th through May 1st, first round being on the 29th. Start things off, this one's a no-brainer. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall to Jacksonville. Any rebuttal, Aaron?
No, Trevor Lawrence is definitely ready to play. He's definitely he's been scouted for years now, and I could definitely see him going first, as probably 99% of America can as well.
Right. And so these next two picks are a little bit of a toss-up here. We got Zach Wilson going second to the Jets and Mac Jones going third to the 49ers. What do you think about this one?
So for me, Wilson's really shown up as of late. A lot of people have been talking about him. For me, really, I don't know if I trust him with the second pick because of the fact that he was at BYU, which is a smaller school. And, of course, you see a guy going, what they're saying to go third, Mac Jones, who went to Alabama. He had a lot of success there. And you have other quarterbacks in this draft too, like Justin Fields, Trey Lance. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd use that second pick on someone who is part of a smaller school, a smaller program, than some of these bigger name schools, as in Alabama and Ohio State.
So who do you think that the Jets are going to end up going with here? Do you think they like Wilson more than Jones or any of the other QBs?
I don't know. At this point, I feel that Wilson is the lock for 2. I think he's the lock at this point. I think a lot of people, especially the Jets scouting team, has really come to love him. I just hope the best success for the team, because obviously I didn't like the move within the last 2 weeks, but they shipped off Sam Darnold to Carolina for some draft picks for the next coming years, and I don't know. Darnold, I think, is only 24. I really didn't see that he was the problem. I really didn't see that he needed to be released or traded. But if they like Zach Wilson, why not? Go for it. See what it brings you. Maybe you'll get that great QB of the future that you've been looking for so long.
So moving on to pick number 4 here, we got the Falcons taking Kyle Pitts at tight end. And I don't know about this one. This one's a bit of a head scratcher for me, because I was looking at the Falcons depth chart earlier, and really you got Matt Ryan, and that's about it. So you think they're going to go for a QB instead, or do you think they'll take Pitts?
So I could see if the Falcons are feeling it, I could easily see them taking Fields at 4. But Pitts is one heck of an athlete. He ran a like a 4.46 40. He was, and the thing about him, what I like about him is that he's versatile. He's 6'6", 240. That's what he's listed at now. In my opinion, that is not really what a tight end weighs and what a tight end. He has the height. I don't think he has the weight, and I don't know what the Falcons team will do with him. But I could easily see him, becoming more of a like a big receiver instead of a tight end because he's that versatile.
Right. So moving on down the draft a little bit more here, we got pick number 5, and this is where things get a little dicey with Aaron and this CBS NFL football team. So the Bengals are projected to pick Ja'Marr Chase at wide receiver. He's the best wide receiver in the draft ranking-wise, and he's 3rd overall projected, but he's going 5th here. And what do you think about this one, Aaron?
This is, Josh, we were talking about this pre-show, and at this point, Burrow already hurt his ACL. He was out for a number of weeks after, obviously the Bengals didn't really have a lot of success last year, but he showed flashes. I understand. Ja'Marr Chase was his old teammate. I understand the hype around that. The problem is that Burrow is so young and he had such a good rookie year, and you could probably argue that he would have, been fighting with Justin Herbert if he didn't get hurt. You could say he probably was at that point before he got hurt. If I'm the Bengals, I'm taking the safe pick. I'm not taking the flashy pick. I'm taking Penei Sewell from Oregon. He's a great player, and he's very fast for a guy who's 6'6", 330. He's offensive lineman, and he'll probably play tackle, and he's definitely a day one starter for sure.
Yeah, like you were saying beforehand, like how he's fast. A big guy this size moving at what you said he had a 4.4 40-yard dash.
No, that was Kyle Pitts.
That's right. I'm sorry.
But he's definitely, the thing with most linemen is you don't expect them to be quick, but these guys can actually move despite being 300 plus pounds.
Right.
They're definitely freaks athletes,
right.
But they're just bigger guys. They don't get as much recognition as the speedy wide receivers or the running backs and all that. But yeah, if I'm the Bengals, I'm taking Penei Sewell with the 5th pick.
Yeah, so moving on down, we got another wide receiver projected here at 6 for the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle from Alabama. He's a junior, 5'10", 182 pounds. 2nd best wide receiver in the draft, obviously right behind Ja'Marr Chase. But what you think about this one here? I mean, it could add some firepower for Tua.
So if the Bengals do pick Sewell here, if I'm the Dolphins, Kyle Fuller just recently was picked up at free agency. He's on that team now. And Devontae Parker, who's really showed some flashes as a wide receiver 1. I don't know what's going to be the case with that competition between Devontae Parker and Will Fuller. But I feel like right now a wide receiver there is a good. That's like one of the only times I could see it being a good pick. Right. So Chase and Waddle are definitely both probably a safe lock for one of those picks for sure.
Unless something goes way off the board, and the Lions don't get a chance to pick number 7 here with Justin Fields out of Ohio State. I mean, Fields has looked like an amazing QB, and to see him fall all the way down to 7 is pretty interesting here.
It's also a little embarrassing. I mean, a lot of people were saying that after Lawrence, it was going to be him. Mm-hmm. And Wilson showed flashes, and I think he had a great, Wilson probably had the better pro day, but Fields, I feel like, is a better athlete. I mean, speaking of, he ran a 4.44 40, and that's like unheard of for a running back or a quarterback. The fastest quarterback in my memory that I remember was RG3 running a 4.41.
Yeah, I remember.
So
that was he set like I think he set a record.
Yeah, it was like a combine record for a quarterback. So for that to be that close, sure, it's nice, but then again, Jared Goff just got traded to the Lions. He's not a bad player. He just didn't really, I don't know. I feel like he will pretty much have some sort of a resurgence in Detroit. He's not that old. He's only like 27, I believe. I think he has a good amount of prime left in him, and I really don't think that the Lions should really be focusing on a quarterback at this moment.
So do you think if, Waddle or Chase drops down to 7, do you think the Lions pick up one of those 2 wide receivers to support Goff and try to get him to, get that resurgence?
So the best thing for a new quarterback coming in is always a lineman, because you're showing you want to protect that player. So I know the second or third best ranked offensive lineman is Rashawn Slater. He's listed here at 11, but he's also a very versatile guy. He opted out of this season last year because of COVID, but he went up against guys like Chase Young, who won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he's an amazing player, and he really shut him down the whole game when they played. I honestly think that there's 2 picks I could really see like them going linemen. Like I said, it's the Bengals or the Lions right now. Also, it says here at 8, the Panthers will probably, if everything goes as they were projected, Sewell would go 8. In my opinion, I think that's very, very late for him. Yeah. I think the Bengals get him on a lock, or they go Jamar Chase, which in my opinion would be, like I said before, the flashy pick.
Yeah. So I mean, right here on the CBS description of Sewell, it's the best case scenario for the Panthers and Sam Darnold. So,
exactly.
Like you said, if he falls that far, it's going to be a miracle.
If he falls that far, take him. Don't have any hesitation. Don't go for the flashy guy. Take him, because he could be a 10 to 15 year NFL player with his versatility and his dynamic, blocking ability.
So moving on to the last 2 picks of this top 10 here, we got the Broncos picking number 9 with Patrick Surtain II at cornerback. He's the second best cornerback in the draft, ranking-wise. So what do you like about this one here?
I like it. I actually think I'd keep this pick. If I am the Broncos and he's still on the board, take him. You've pretty much had a detrimental defense the last few years. I don't know why you wouldn't want to take Surtain II, because he's been a great corner for Alabama. And of course, Caleb Farley, who was the first projected corner, who was going to be probably a top 10 pick like Surtain, had back surgery at the end of the year last year, the collegiate year. So he dropped a lot. He's now listed at 25, and that just shows guys like Surtain and all of them could just rise up and go higher on draft boards, and of course, and stuff like that.
Right, and just like you said just now, it's, cornerback Jace Horn is projected number 10 at Dallas.
Yeah, J.C. Horn.
Or J.C. Horn, I'm sorry. But he's the 4th overall cornerback in the draft.
Yeah, just like the Broncos, the Cowboys haven't really had any answers for defense. They've been pretty much bottom of the league last few years. They have a few guys like Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith. They have a lot of good guys. They're just not complete. And to put J.C. Horn in that defense will help them day one if he does get drafted and if he does get to Dallas.
Well, we'll have to see what transpires here in the next 10 days before the draft. So thank you, Aaron. We'll have to get you back on. Hopefully we have enough time before the end of the school year to get you back on to break the draft down. But up next, we have Trevor coming on to talk some NHL, and we'll be right back.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office, all you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. Post executive service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the poll. At the poll.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service.
It's simple.
Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down. Post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
What a great time for a drink. What a great time for a drink.
If it's time for a drink this many times a day, you're not a social drinker. You're a problem drinker. And you could be well on your way to really messing up your life. Think about it. Talk to somebody about it. Do something about it before it's too late. A message in the interest of your better health from the American Medical Association.
This is not a commercial. If you think measles, mumps, whooping cough, or polio are nothing to worry about, you'd better think again, because they could make your child go blind or deaf. They can cripple or kill. To protect children, you have to get them immunized. Get them their shots. It costs nothing or very little, so get it done now by your doctor or local health center. Your child's future is in your hands. Don't let her down.
A message in the interest of better health from the American Medical Association.
Welcome back to Sports Hour. Happy to have Trevor Hauer on here to talk some hockey, and it's been some pretty wild games as of late in the NHL.
Yeah, man. I mean, this month of April alone has had some crazy games. Teams that you wouldn't expect winning all these games, starting to win games, like our Buffalo Sabres. They're starting to win some games in April, even though their hopes of making the playoffs are pretty much shot at this point. I think they're officially gone after the loss against Pittsburgh. But
yep, they are. They've
sort of been turning it around, and it's so fun to see the Sabres actually play with some heart.
Yeah, I mean, the Sabres can't win meaningful games in March, but they can win meaningful games in April. But no, so first game up for you on the dock here, we have Friday night. The Montreal Canadiens took on the Calgary Flames and defeated them 2-1, trying to make a late push for the playoffs here for both teams, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal, it's a tough division. That Canadian division as a whole, it's filled with talented teams. Montreal with a clutch victory. Tyler Toffoli, who ended up scoring, who was a new acquisition this year, scoring both goals for the Habs, and Lindholm scoring the only goal for Calgary. It's both teams trying to make a late season push. That's why I chose to put this game on here. Two teams that are, there's still a lot of time for these teams to make a push, but I think from after watching this game, I think Montreal is the better team, and I think they have the better odds of making the playoffs over Calgary.
Yeah, so you got Montreal making it in at that 4 spot, and then Winnipeg Oilers,
in Toronto.
Maple Leafs at the top.
Yep, for sure. And I think if there's any team that perfectly fits the 4th spot, it has to be Montreal, even though I'm not really a big fan of the Canadiens and Eric Stahl. But
hey, I mean, he hasn't done too much since he got there. And I want to see Carey Price try to get a cup.
Yeah.
To cap off his career, that'd be great.
Yeah, because, there have been some great goalies that have come and gone through this league, and the two that come to my mind that haven't won a cup yet are Carey Price and Henrik Lundqvist. So
don't forget about our boy.
Oh, and Ryan Miller. But it'd be so nice to see Carey Price, even though he plays for the Canadiens, usually a Sabres division rival. It'd be nice to see him sort of finally get the weight lifted off his shoulders and win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I mean, as a fellow goalie myself, you respect some people. Like there's people in the league you don't like Milan Lucic or Brad Marchand, but there's people in the league you respect, like Ovechkin and Crosby and maybe not Crosby, but Ovechkin. But anyway, I thought you had the Penguins on here, but Saturday's game, the Rangers double up the Devils 6-3. Goals for the Rangers from Buchnevich, who had a hat trick on his birthday, actually. Ryan Strome scored a goal. Chris Kreider scored one, and Panarin scored one. As this Rangers team is on fire.
Yeah, and one of the youngest teams in the East, and even one of the youngest teams in the NHL.
Right.
They're looking to get that 4th spot in the division.
Boston's really slipping too.
They are starting to slip a little bit. So I'm kind of pulling for New York to kind of steal that spot away from Boston, because they're just a fun team to watch.
For sure.
And Buchnevich, you already said on his birthday, scoring a hat trick. Happy birthday to him, I guess. And Artemi Panarin always seems to find a way to tear up this Eastern Division. Even when he used to play in Chicago and he used to, come to Buffalo and play us, unfortunately, he used to tear us apart. But he's finding a way to score any goals he can and, bounce back and try to get the Rangers a playoff spot here. But this is looking like a pretty dangerous team going into the late season push.
Yeah, and I mean, Boston is only ahead by 4 points, so it's right down to the wire here. I don't know what the season series is yet with the Rangers and the Bruins, but if they haven't finished their games yet, you can definitely bet that those remaining games are going to be quite the spectacle.
Yeah, and I think those are actually towards the end of the season, so that's going to be all the more special, all the more important for the Rangers and the Bruins. And I know the Bruins have, I think, 3 games in a row coming up against Buffalo over the next week or so, and those are going to be an important task for Boston because, I mean, the Sabres, they are kind of turning it around, but they are still last in the league, and they're still a beatable team for Boston. But New York is just on fire now. I think, considering now that they're like one of the youngest teams in the league, that's scary for the Eastern Conference in the next 2 to 3 years.
Right. I mean, you look at their goaltending, you got Shesterkin and Georgiev. On their defense, you got Adam Fox and Keandre Miller, Capo Caco, Lafreniere, Panarin, even Kreider and Buznevich and Zibanejad. I mean, they're all older guys, but they're still producing and are going to mentor these younger guys, and it's just going to. They have a nice pipeline going right now. I really do. I really think that. And the hockey writers released their, or the Hockey News, released their top prospect pools the other day, and behind Ottawa in first, it was the Rangers in second, with I think probably 5 or 6 guys in the top 50 50 prospects in the NHL right now. That have been drafted.
And it only helps because the Rangers are a very high market team. New York teams in general are really high market teams. Strong fan base for the Rangers. Same with Boston. They got a pretty high market too. Yeah. So it's going to be a great push to the finish. See who gets this 4th overall spot, and sort of a wild card spot. I think any time there's a 4th spot placed in the division that makes the playoffs, it's sort of a wild card, and all you have to do is make the playoffs, and anything could happen. Just ask the Columbus Blue Jackets when they swept the Tampa Bay Lightning a couple years ago. That was insane. But
don't forget the St. Louis Blues, unfortunately.
And the St. Louis Blues, unfortunately, with our boy Ryan O'Reilly.
Yep.
But all you have to do is make it. Anything can happen. I think the Rangers have what it takes to make the playoffs, and I think they have the firepower to get past the first round, but it's still a little early to say that.
Right. I mean, it depends on who they face. If they face the Caps, it's going to be a little tougher. If they face the Islanders, maybe not so much, but the Islanders play a very suffocating, boring defensive game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be I think these playoffs are going to be some of the best ones we've ever seen, even though we do have all this COVID problems. But, it's going to be fun. But
it is going to be great.
Moving on to our beloved Buffalo Sabres to finish things off here tonight. They're actually good at hockey, I guess.
They're showing signs of life.
I mean, Don Granato, he's looked fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like he's almost like Lindy Ruff experience, or like Dan Bilesman when he's in Pittsburgh. Okay, maybe I shouldn't go that far. But he's just looked amazing for this team, and the team looks so new and fresh. They look like they have a whole new breath of life in them. Middlestat, Dahlin, even Okposo. Okposo's on, if this was an 82-game season, in the last 11 games, he's on a 74-point pace. Kyle Okposo, who did not, I think he had 13 points last year.
At the very most.
At the very most.
13,
and it's ridiculous, but I just love to see these guys improve. And Dustin Tokarski today got the first star of the week for the NHL after getting his first win since 2015, and it was his first win in the NHL since his father passed away a couple years ago. So that's, oddly enough, the second time that's happened this year to a Buffalo Sabres player.
And it's about time. It's definitely about time,
too, good for him,
Dustin Tokarski, because that's been a weight on his shoulders for a while. Finally gets his first win, and that's all well and good. But since Okposo is injured, you have another Sabre that's been stepping up a lot under Don Granato, and that's Tage Thompson. We were saying earlier in the season, he doesn't have a spot on this team. Tage Thompson should not be in an NHL uniform to begin with. But now under Don Granato, it has just totally changed. And Casey Middlestat and Rasmus Dahlin is rejuvenated into the player that he once was.
Right. I mean, it looks like he's back in Sweden, dangling around guys in the year before his draft year.
He's a lot more patient with the puck. I think with Ralph Kruger, he was super frantic and he was always on his toes, and Kruger was just sending a bad message, principles, and his system just wasn't working.
Accountability.
But the thing about Don Granato is he doesn't have an established system. He's letting the players be themselves.
Right. Well, he actually said in a quote the other day, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, if our style doesn't work for you, we're not going to force it, because that's not going to help your NHL ability. It's not going to help you develop in the NHL. Even if you're a veteran, you're not going to force a style on somebody, because if they've never played that way or they don't play well under that style, you're just pounding a square peg in a round hole. It's
Right.
not going to do anything.
It's not going to work.
And another thing we want to point out is Arttu Ruotsalainen.
Yep.
He's stepped up like crazy since being called up from Rochester. He's had, I think, 2 or 3 goals in his 4 games up here. So
yeah,
that's looked fantastic so far.
And with all these other players that got called up, like Matthias Samuelsson, who had a pretty nice game playing with Rasmus Ristolainen, playing on the same line. I think there's a spark under these Rochester players that are coming up. They want to stay in the NHL long term, so I think they have the most heart right now. Since the season's already done, they still have something to play for, something to prove going into next year. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from these young guys.
Now, while we move on to this next point here, this is a little far-fetched, but this is something I read on Sabres Reddit that got posted to Twitter the other day. So take it as a grain of salt. But someone compared Anders Bjork, who just came in from Boston, to Danny Briere coming in from Arizona, and they compared Dylan Cousins to Chris Drury coming in from Colorado, because both of them are kind of young, unproven guys. Well, Cousins has, the leadership, and it looks like he has the leadership. And Briere never really got a shot in Arizona before he got traded to Buffalo, and Bjork never really got a shot in Boston before he got traded to Buffalo. And now we're seeing Anders Bjork put up the same numbers as Taylor Hall.
Right.
Taylor Hall's sure, he's got 3 goals in Boston so far since being traded, but Bjork has, I think, 2 or 3 goals and 4 assists since being traded.
And Bjork's first game as a Sabre got a secondary assist, and then I think in the second game
he got a goal and an
assist,
right.
and a +2 rating. So Bjork is showing some heart, and Taylor Hall, of course, he can score 3 goals in Boston. They've had a great team for a decade now, I want to say, but. So if you're not scoring in Boston, you're not going to fit in any team. But at the same time, I think Taylor Hall's a rental player. He won't be in Boston next year. I think he'll be a free agent up until the start of next season. They'll use him in the playoffs if they make it. But I don't see him sticking around next year. I think they just traded for him as a rental role, and he won't be around next year. He'll be on a whole new team next year.
Right, and I think, like you just said, he's probably not going to be there. And it's probably because, in all honesty, they don't have the money. You got to pay guys like Pasternak, Coyle, McAvoy, Bergeron, Marchand, Tuukka. You don't have the money for Taylor Hall because he's probably going to want something like at least $7 million. So I think his days in a Bruins jersey are numbered unless they go far in the playoffs. If they go far in the playoffs, they'll make it work. But I really now that I shouldn't have jumped the gun on this Bjork trade, because now that they're working into the system a little bit, it's looking like maybe the Sabres and the Bruins both won this trade, because I'm not saying there's a clear winner or loser here yet because it's so fresh, but it's going to be interesting to see who ends up being the winner for this trade. But I think Bjork's going to turn out well for the Sabres, and I think Hall's going to turn out well for the Bruins if he stays.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. It could be a win-win for each team, but you never really know until a couple seasons go by if Taylor Hall sticks around, how great Bjork does next year if he sticks around. It's a little too early to say, but I think the trade worked out for both teams.
Right, and Bjork is signed for the next couple of years too, so he's under contract. We don't have to worry about that. Really, the big deal is going to be Sam Reinhart. He's got a lot of points without Jack Eichel, so he's really proven himself as possibility to be a number 1 center if Eichel's ever hurt again like this. But time will tell on that. To wrap things up here, are you on the Don Granato for head coach trade or train?
I officially am on the Don Granato bandwagon.
I think I am as well.
I was a little hesitant in the beginning because they dropped their first 7 games, but I'm excited to see if he sticks around in the next couple seasons, see what he does with the team.
I think it'll be interesting, but we'll have to wait and see. Thank you for coming on, Trevor, and we're going to have Dee come on next for some MLB.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul.
You've messed up your son's haircut. Do you try to fix it? Work with what you've got? Or show solidarity?
Thank you, babe. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans, because love has no labels.
un niño que era muy sensible a luces y sonidos. Construía escondites donde no podían entrar. No le gustaba mirar a la gente a los ojos. Lo hacía sentir incómodo. Un día se descubrió que tenía autismo. Con ayuda, poco a poco, aprendió a vivir mejor con ello.
Mientras más pronto se diagnostique, mejor. Conoce las señales en autismspeaks.org.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals 25. Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation.
We can.
Get someone the cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends.
Our roommates.
Our classmates. Our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can. Intervene.
It's on us.
All of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Happy to be back. Happy to be on with D. Thomas here to talk some MLB. First things first, we have to talk about the no-hitter that transpired last week on, I think, Wednesday or Thursday?
It was Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday. So that's the second no-hitter of the year coming from Carlos Rondon. And boy, what a story behind this one. This one's pretty crazy.
Yeah, he's got a very interesting story. He underwent Tommy John surgery in May of 2019, so right in the beginning of that season, and he came back last year and he had a very, very tough season, even with a shortened season. He only pitched 7 2/3 of an inning, and he had an 8.22 ERA. That's not good at all, especially for only pitching that many innings. And his season started off at a rough start, I would say. He was non-tendered by the White Sox following last season, so basically meaning he was going to be cut. And he sat on the free agency market all the way up until February 1st, and then he ended up signing back with the White Sox for a 1-year deal.
So do you think that this no-hitter might have, proven himself a little bit with the White Sox here? I mean, obviously it's just one game, but until the 9th inning, it was a perfect game. He unfortunately hits the Cleveland catcher, Roberto Perez, in the toe.
With 2 strikes.
With 2 strikes.
Like, he barely hit him, and there was 1 out in the inning, so he was 2 outs away from a perfect game, and he hit someone. Like, that's the worst thing. Like, I think that's worse than your player, your defense making an error behind you.
Right.
Like, I think just hitting someone when you got a perfect game going is the worst thing.
I wonder how hard Perez tried to get out of the way of that one, because I'm sure everyone else there wanted to see him get the perfect game.
Oh yeah, even if you were an Indians fan and you're kind of sad that you're being held to a perfect game, but when you get that close to the end of the game and you're 8 innings and 1/3 in and your player gets hit, you're like, man, I could have just witnessed history.
Right, exactly.
But, then, he had a ground out and a strikeout to end the game, so.
Yep. Yeah, so this, as we said, this was the second no-hitter of the year. Joe Musgrove did the same thing on April 9th, which was a couple weeks ago.
Just a few days before
right.
that Wednesday,
Yeah,
just
so
5 days before.
We'll have to see if that transpires again here this week. But moving on to our standings updates, it's looking a little not so good in the AL East for our Yankees
I don't want to talk
fans.
about it, but we're going to talk about it because,
We'll save the worst we'll save the best for last.
The best for last, technically.
So let's go over to the AL Central. So we got Kansas City in first at a 9-5 record. They were at a 1% odds to win the division in the beginning of the year. So
keep in mind, we're still in the beginning of the season.
Right.
They've only played sub 20 games.
Right.
But
the Tigers still stink.
yeah, they're 6-10, and they had a 0% odds of winning this.
But I mean, I think they're playing pretty well for a team that had 0% odds. I mean, the whole division here looks pretty even. No one's above.
Yeah.
No one's in the double-digit wins yet. I mean, Kansas City's closest with 9-5, but I mean, Cleveland 8-7, Chicago at 8-9, Minnesota at 6-8, and Detroit at 6-10.
Minnesota is 6-8, and they had a 61% odds of winning the division. Like,
right. That's mind-boggling.
Like I mean, we're gonna get to it when we get to the East Division, but like it's the beginning of the season. We're 20 games in.
Right. So moving over to the AL West, we have Seattle in first at a 10-6 record.
Another team with a 0% odds.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's crazy.
It's
They're
wild.
turning heads. The LA Angels, with the help of Shohei Ohtani and his resurgence, with an 8-5 record and 24% odds at the beginning of the year. So, I mean, the Angels have really come up and shown out, really.
I mean,
so
not to
far.
rely on one guy, but like he's been really solid for them. Being a pitcher and being someone who has to hit, he's really helping his team being a solid hitter. You don't see many pitchers who have the stats that he does,
Right.
but he hits bombs when he's up to bat.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and he pitches amazing after. It's like, who is this kid?
Yeah, and he looks like he's really bulked up in the offseason, too. I mean, I remember seeing him come in last year, and he was I mean, he's tall, but he was kind of like, lanky and
Scrawny.
like a little bit, yeah.
He was
like,
scrawny,
like a
and now he's,
string dude.
built up that muscle to be
Yeah.
able to be a pitcher, to hit bombs and be, number 2 in the lineup.
Right.
You don't see pitchers number 2. You see
Right.
him 9
I mean,
because they can't hit.
Didn't he have Tommy John surgery last year, too? Or
I think he did. If not,
had
he
some
did the year
sort of
before.
surgery. Yeah.
He definitely was out of commission for a while, but now that he's like coming back, and you don't see many people like bouncing back after that quickly.
Right, yeah. So
Like when we talk about Rodon, who had Tommy John surgery 2 years ago almost, had a terrible year last year. He didn't bounce back, but here he is.
Yeah, now he's starting to show he can still be an MLB pitcher.
Exactly.
With the White Sox. So moving on down the standings here, we got the Oakland Athletics at 9-7. They're 5% odds to win the division. So again, we're early on, but I like how the A's have been playing so far here. I've watched a couple of their games, and I think they look like they're a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I mean, like Kevin and I said a couple weeks ago when we went through, the odds to win the division, just because they have a 5% chance of winning doesn't mean they're going to be a 5% chance. They
Right,
could have
right.
higher. This is just predicted, but Seattle, 10-6, 0% odds of winning.
Right.
You never know what could happen. They could automatically flip and be amazing.
Yeah. And something we all love to see as baseball fans, except for if your name is Trevor Howard. The Houston Astros are 7-8 in the second to last spot in the West here. And boy, oh boy, I love seeing these guys get hit by pitches. It never gets old.
I mean, they're still paying the price for,
They didn't get too much last year, so you gotta.
No.
Keep
They're making up
getting
for
that
it
karma.
already, but
Yeah.
they still have yet to be reprimanded for their, cheating scandal that we all know has happened.
Yep.
So these guys are just going to keep getting plunked until something happens. I mean, even if they do get their punishment for it, they're still going to continue to probably get plunked.
Yeah, a couple
and this
of
team
years
has this team has a 72% chance of winning.
I mean,
the
they
division.
still have a majority of their guys from that World Series winning team.
They
but,
lost George Springer.
Right, and he's on the Blue Jays now.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about it. Are those guys that go to new teams, are they still getting, hit every time?
Getting what they got from what they deserve from
Right.
the Astros.
Right.
I mean,
How much?
they might not be an Astro, but they were
what do you
still an
think?
Astro when it happened.
What do you think goes on in the locker room in the dugout with those guys? I mean, is George Springer going, "Hey guys, hit this garbage can"?
I mean, I don't think he wants to go through that again. But
I hope he
I
doesn't.
wonder. Now talking about the locker room, I wonder if they get hazed about it. I
Right.
wonder if they get
Yeah.
picked on for doing that.
I hope he doesn't corrupt Vladdy Guerrero Jr. or Bo Bichette, because they have looked impeccable. Buffalo products, right? Well, Vladdy Guerrero not so much, but Bo Bichette, Buffalo product right there. The Buffalo Bisons have treated him well.
Buffalo Bisons. Yep.
And then rounding out the last spot in this division, we have the Texas Rangers at a 7-9, and I mean it's kind of interesting that the only team in the NFL, in the MLB, that has full capacity in the entire country is in last place.
Yeah, who knows if the fans have anything to do with it. But.
Well, yeah, I wonder, but it's just kind of funny that they can actually have a full crowd and they won't.
And they won't, yeah.
Yeah. So
not at the rate they're going. So
back to the AL East now, and I hope Kevin is watching.
I hope Kevin is watching too.
We're going to talk about the Yankees.
Yeah.
Well, first we're going to talk about the Boston Red Sox,
because they're in first place, and that hurts my eyes. And it hurts my heart.
Yeah, I don't like the Red Sox either, but I don't like the Yankees.
I know I could probably count on my one hand the amount of friends I have. I don't know if they're my friends because they're Boston fans, but I think I know a solid 5 people maybe that are Boston fans.
I think I know 1 or 2, and he's a fan of one of them is a fan of the Patriots, Bruins, and Red Sox. So he's the trifecta. Sorry if you're watching that. But anyway, so the Red Sox are holding strong at 11-6 in the top of the standings. Tampa Bay at 8-8, it's in second. Baltimore 7-9, Toronto 7-9. And the Yankees in last place at 5-10. This is the first time they've been in the sole possession of last place in the league, I believe, or at least in the AL East since 2009?
I think.
No, not 2009.
Not 2009.
2004. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2004. Because I was like 2009. They won the World Series.
Wrong milestone there.
But they don't have the least amount of wins. Colorado Rockies, that we'll get to next week, have 4 wins right now. So they don't have the least amount of wins.
But,
so I mean, they still have one of the worst records. But Brian Cashman did have a press conference today, and he said, "If you're a Yankee fan, don't worry. We're just in a lull."
Okay.
This happens every year, I swear. Yankees suck in the beginning of the season, and then by July, they're like, whew, the best team. We're not talking about the Mets today, but this is how it usually works out. Mets usually do really, really good. The one other New York team do really good, and then the Yankees do really bad. And then by the time July happens, they flip. Mets do terrible, and the Yankees are amazing.
But on the other hand, you got Pete Alonso, you got Francisco Lindor, you got DeGrom, you got all these guys.
They do.
So I think the Mets are going to hang around this year. But back to the Yankees, what do you think they need to do to turn things around? Do you think it's just it'll be fine, this is what we go through every year, but what if it's not? What if it's something completely different?
I don't think we have a solid lineup that we can rely on every day. Because, we have DJ LeMahieu, we have Clint Frazier, we have Aaron Hicks, we have Aaron Judge. We have all these big names, big hitters. But, if you don't stay consistent with your lineup and you keep switching things in and out, switching all of your players, you don't build that chemistry with each other. Taking it from experience, when we have the same lineup, when I play a softball game, we have this chemistry. When you start flipping things around and you're not used to playing with the same people, then it gets a little funky.
Right.
So with New York, their outfield is different, I swear, every day. You either got Clint Frazier or Brett Gardner in left, or you have Brett Gardner and Aaron Hicks in center, or you have Stanton and Judge in right. It's different every day. Or you have Frazier in right, or you have Tauchman. You have all these outfielders, and we don't have a solid infield either, because with Luke Voit out, we have DJ at first, and now we don't have DJ at second.
Right.
And Torres and Urshela are always back and forth. We don't have that solid lineup, and I think if we had that solid lineup, we would have way better performance.
Well, I mean, hey, A-Rod and J-Lo broke up. Maybe he'll come out of retirement and come back to the Yankees.
I don't want to talk about that. That makes me sad.
Yeah, A-Rod is not in the best place right now.
Well, then he just agree to buy a basketball team.
He did buy the Timberwolves and the Lynx, but the day they broke up,
maybe that cursed the Yankees.
Oh, that'd be
that probably cursed the Yankees. I honestly, now that I think about it, that probably did it.
But I mean, I don't know. It's interesting that they're paying Stanton and Judge all this, or at least Stanton anyway, all this money, and he's not hitting. He's not doing anything.
That's Stanton for you.
Well, yeah.
He's either hot or he's not.
Yeah.
And he's not right now.
So to wrap up here, we're going to switch things over to softball real quick. Can you give a quick team update? How the ladies doing?
We are currently tied for second place right now at 4-4. In the West Division, Geneseo leads us. We have tomorrow off. We don't have a game. We play St. John Fisher on Thursday, who is ranked number 12 in the entire country for Division III, and then we face Brockport again for another SUNYAC matchup on Saturday.
That should be a good one. Hopefully we can get out there and broadcast that one. You can hear my lovely voice over the Boxcast. But thanks for coming on, Dee, giving us an update on our softball team in the MLB.
Of course.
Finally, coming up, we have Jared coming on for soccer to talk about the crazy and wacky Super League that's going on in Europe right now.
When you have sex with someone who shoots up and shares needles or works, you could get AIDS. Even worse, you could have a baby with AIDS. Have the AIDS test first, before you get pregnant. Don't have a baby who's born to die. Get into drug treatment. Call 1-800-662-HELP. Stop shooting up AIDS.
I have welcomed people from all nations, your parents, grandparents, and I gave them a dream of freedom and hope. Now time and the elements are destroying me. I am in desperate need of help. America, you are my dream, and I am yours. If you still believe in me, save me.
Keep the torch lit. Send your contribution or call 1-800-THE-LADY.
Have you noticed? It's getting warmer. What's happening? Scientists call it the greenhouse effect, the gradual warming of the Earth caused in part by increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This is Eddie Albert. I urge you to fight the greenhouse effect by planting trees. Our free booklet, Conservation Trees, will show you how. To get your copy, write the National Arbor Day Foundation, Nebraska City, Nebraska. Do it now.
How much do you know about whiplash? Test yourself. You can suffer whiplash in other activities besides being a passenger in a car. True or false? Whiplash comes from sudden movement of the neck. True or false? Cervical neck problems can be the source of pain or disorder in other parts of the body. True or false? If you answered true on all the questions, you are correct. The American Chiropractic Association reminds you even a slight bump, jar, or twist can cause spine or neck problems.
On for our final segment tonight, we have Jared Marsh to talk about the European Super League. And this makes me so angry.
John, let me just say, this is a huge mistake.
This is the biggest mistake I've ever seen in organized soccer, football, whatever you want to call it. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's greedy owners going after money. I did see a couple points today. The owners are trying to make money back from the pandemic. But before we get into the whole shebang, let's explain the outline real quick.
Yep.
So, yesterday, 12 teams announced that they would be co-founders of this league. So it's teams from La Liga, Serie A, and the EPL, English Premier League. So we have Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man U, and Tottenham Spurs from the EPL, AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Juventus from Serie A, and Atletico Madrid, Barca, and Real Madrid from La Liga. So literally the biggest teams in the world, excluding PSG, Dortmund, and Bayern, are all going into their own league and will not play in the EPL, Serie A, or La Liga. They won't play in UEFA Champions League. None of the players will play in the World Cup. These are all stipulations put up by FIFA and the UEFA because they're so mad that these teams are leaving. But these teams are leaving because they don't want to play with the scrub teams anymore and they want to make their money back. So, I don't like it at all. I really don't like it. And you're doing this weeks before the UEFA Champions League final.
Yeah.
Which,
that pretty much just sums up this whole COVID thing.
Right. Yeah. not to just go off right in the beginning here, but this is just a bad idea. So, Jared, what are your thoughts? I'm sure you have the same thoughts as me. But.
I honestly didn't know about this until you told me about it. Because I asked you, what should we talk about? You're like, how about the Super League? I'm like, what's going on? So I looked it up, and yeah, I mean, like what you said, these 12 teams want to like form their own league, so to say. It's kind of gonna be like, you know, the NHL, the NBA, like stuff like that. And I didn't know why they were doing it, but in the end, it's definitely a huge mistake. And I found this quote on a YouTube video: "Not civil war, but a nuclear war."
Yeah,
that pretty much sums it up.
This is not just like, hey, maybe like we should. It's it's not like a breakup where it's like, hey, maybe we should see other people. It's like, hey, like we're done. I'm taking the dog, the kids, the car, the house, everything. Like that's what this is like.
Yeah.
So this is just I don't know. And it's going to be a closed league too. It's going to be like you said, like the NFL, the NHL. There's going to be no promotion, no relegation. It's just going to be these 12 teams, no matter what happens, unless something down the road goes on where Arsenal, you know, is Arsenal and they don't play very well and they get booted out of the league. But I honestly don't know. Can this be reverted at this point? Has it seems like it's basically a game of chicken right now.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, you can do, I mean, do teams really want to do this? I mean, that's the biggest question. I mean,
do players want to do it?
Specifically? Yeah, I mean, because like you said, I mean, imagine the World Cup without Messi, Ronaldo, like all these great players. Like, who the heck would watch it?
Exactly.
Like,
so like I said, FIFA had said if you partake in this league as a player, you cannot play in the Champions League, you cannot play in your own league, and you cannot play in FIFA World Cup, the League of Nations, or Europa Cup, which is the smaller, the second division, if you will, of the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a World Cup without Ronaldo, Messi, Lukaku, who else? Van Dijk.
Even Christian Pulisic.
Christian Pulisic for the U.S. That would be a major blow.
Huge loss for them.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it before we got on. Weston McKennie is on Juventus. Mm-hmm. Sergio Dest is on Barcelona. So you're all these national teams, especially the U.S., which is our main focus, obviously, are going to lose either stars like Ronaldo and Messi or up and comers like I just said, Pulisic, Dest, and McKennie. So one thing I'm very happy to see is Bayern did not take part in this.
Yes, I know. It's like I'm so glad that the French league didn't take part in this, or even the Germans. Like I think right now they're the smartest. They need, you know, obviously with PSG, Neymar, Mbappe. Like you got huge stars on that team, and then same thing with Dortmund. I mean Marco Reus. Like that would be a huge loss for Germany right there.
Right, and I mean as he's aging, Manuel Neuer for Germany. Ter Stegen is on Barca, I believe, so that's a blow there for them. Alisson is on the goalkeeper. He's on. I think he's on
right now.
I think he's on Liverpool, so that would be a blow.
Yes,
yep. De Gea for Spain with Man United.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people here that these teams are going to lose.
Yep.
It's just not a good idea. I mean, if FIFA backs down and changes their mind, then you know everything's fine. But I don't think FIFA's going to back down. I hope they don't, because this could literally ruin soccer.
Yeah, then, you know, this is probably the biggest thing that's happened in soccer for a long time, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen, I don't know how many videos on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter. Everyone's saying this was created by literally farmers and industrial workers, the poorest people in their towns that loved soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, look at people in Brazil. Look at Marcelo. He was playing soccer with a cabbage.
Wow.
And he said, "Can I have this cabbage?" And the guy said, "Yeah, go ahead and take it." And he's like, "Okay, I'll come back and pay for it when I'm a soccer star."
Wow.
He came back in the 2014 World Cup, and he found that guy and he paid him for his cabbage. And he's like, "Holy cow." So, like, it's people like that you're not going to see anymore.
Yeah.
Because most of the players don't care about money.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the owners, I mean, I read a quote today from Perez, the owner of Real Madrid, and he was just like, obviously this is about the money, this is important to make our money back, and it's like, what? Like, what about the sport that you're playing? Like, obviously you have to make money, but, like, what are you doing?
I know, yeah, and exactly, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's so, like, I honestly don't know. I was just so, like, shocked by this, to be honest, and obviously, I told you before the show, so the Spurs did fire Jose Mourinho today.
And their whole coaching staff.
And their whole coaching staff,
right.
Yes. So that's a huge loss right there for the Spurs. Now, I know I was talking to my friend, and I don't know if the Spurs were talking to Andrea Pirlo. I know he's the coach of Juve, right? Right now? Or?
I thought he was somewhere in the MLS coaching.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. But
I'm not too sure.
Something like he wanted to come to, like, the Premier League.
Well,
if it stays intact here.
But it's interesting because now you're going to see. I mean, I saw a thing yesterday. I think it was Benfica on their team's site. They edited the standings to take off.
Really?
Atletico Madrid, Barca, and Real Madrid. So now they edited that knowing that their rivals Sevilla were going to be at the top, and they said we don't care. We need to show everybody that these leagues need to be united in this. Honestly, like La Liga, Serie A, and EPL should come together with this and work together to like stop this because. You look at the EPL, and you could see a team like my team.
Yeah,
Everton.
I know. Yeah,
Everton's going to win the Prem next year.
I was just about to ask you that. Like, who do you think is going to like step up in the Premier League now if this follows through?
Fingers crossed.
Everton, yes.
Everton. But I mean, there's a lot of good teams that are still in the Prem, like Leicester City.
Yeah. Even West Ham is up there too.
West Ham, yeah. So even Crystal Palace. I mean, it's weird saying that.
I know.
But in all reality, that's how it could be if this goes through. So. It's just interesting that they didn't wait to do this during the summer transfer window when most leagues aren't playing. So I wonder if they did this to kind of throw FIFA off balance a little bit, surprise them, startle them. I don't know. It's just kind of mind-boggling because it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, I was reading today, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there were rumors about this. Like, they were going to, like, kind of break away a little bit, like, to kind of, like, form their own league, so to say. And then, like you said earlier, you know, to play not the crappiest teams all the time. And, like, I understand that, but, I mean, this is the UEFA Champions League. I mean, those teams deserve to be there. I mean, if they made it, like,
and like, you know, like the one thing I heard was, you know, these teams right here behind us are worried about, you know, like, oh, they're basically paying for the bottom feeders, and they're worried about relegation and running out of money. And it's like, well, if you're good, you're not going to get relegated.
Exactly, yeah.
So just be better, basically. I mean, in all reality. I don't think any of these teams behind us here could fall to the relegation zone. I mean, I know Tottenham was looking like it at the beginning of the year, so was Arsenal, but in all reality, they're not ever going to get done.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't really know what the decision was on this. I don't know why, like, what was going on, like, to be honest. Like, I don't know, like you said. I mean, there's just a lot of controversy behind this whole thing, and you just don't really know what's going to happen.
Right, and UEFA did announce today that they said, okay, you're going to do this. Well, here's our guidelines next year for the Champions League, and it's going to be a 16-team tournament, I believe, with 10 group stage games instead of 6. So that'll be more fun for soccer fans. I mean, you'll be able to watch more group stage games, which I think are the most exciting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because that's literally teams fighting to stay in the tournament. Yeah. So, honestly, this in a way could very well help every team that doesn't go into this league. I mean, like I said, Bayern, PSG, Dortmund, they're not going into it. So they're going to be the forefront of the Champions League next year. And there's been talks that Messi's going to go to PSG.
Wow.
So, I mean, because Messi wants to play for Argentina until he retires. And if he stays at Barca, he can't do that.
Exactly.
But if he leaves Barca, that's like him
PSG
backing
stacked.
Yeah, but that's also him backing out of everything he's ever played for. But it's clear that the president of Barcelona right now, he does not really care about what he says in public, because I remember a few months ago he said, you know, if Messi leaves, pretty much. Like, that's pretty much what he said. And if that's his thought process, he's well on his way to do
push
that.
him forward then. Push him to form this. Wow.
Yeah,
Messi to PSG.
Right. That'd be quite the transfer. I don't know how real it is, but if this all stays true and FIFA doesn't back down and these teams don't back down, it could very well happen. And we could see it with other teams too. We could see Van Dijk go to other teams. We could see Lukaku, Ronaldo. Trying to think of some other big name players from these teams. Aguero.
Paulo Dybala.
Dybala, yeah. Even the younger guys, like we were talking about McKennie and Pulisic and Diego Jota from Chelsea, who's an up-and-coming Brazilian star. So, like, a lot of players are going to be affected by this, whether you're on these teams or not, because other players are going to get more options, and other players, like the forefront, are going to fall out of stardom, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I mean, this is just like, I don't know. This, like, it's kind of interesting to talk about because it gives us something else to talk about. But
Right,
it is
other than
a
just
little
Premier League
yeah,
standings.
exactly. But it is a little. I don't know. It's a
concerning.
little frustrating to be honest.
It's
because
concerning too because it's just like why, like what other than these 12 teams gaining stuff, what does everyone else gain? This is like a very like me mentality instead of like what's good for the good of the group.
So these 12 teams are the co-founders. So I was reading today. The league is expected to have 20 teams in this. So I don't know what the other teams who they're gonna be.
Right.
But I mean, if it follows through, which we hope that it doesn't, because I'm hoping that the World Cup can be interesting next year.
Right.
In Qatar.
It'll be interesting no matter what. I
Yeah.
think.
But you want to see all those good players there, though, that we know.
So we'll have to follow this. I mean, it's obviously clearly a developing story. It just broke yesterday.
Yep.
But time will tell. Hopefully our soccer teams don't change too much. But until next time, thank you for watching another episode of Sports Hour. Jared, thank you for coming on. Until next time, have a great week, everybody.